Hi, my name is Vinitha Maskell, and I am the founder and CEO of SmartCast Incorporated. We are a women-owned management consulting company located here in Pennsylvania. With over 25 years of global corporate experience, I have had the opportunity to put in place business continuity strategies and develop crisis management plans. And given the recent events, I wanted to share with you my learnings and experiences to help you as you lead your organization through these uncertain times. The World Health Organization and the CDC has called the COVID-19 a pandemic. From airports to schools to hospitals, the recent challenges arising from the rapid spread of coronavirus has shown that not all companies and institutions may have developed a robust and quickly deployable process to identify business risks and rapidly work towards a containment and recovery plan. As we come together as a nation to grapple what lies ahead, we may still have some time as leaders to refresh or create our business continuity and crisis management plans, develop stronger value chain partnerships, and create positive outcomes within our communities while continuing to deliver corporate results. In the face of a disruptive event, it is important for leaders within any type of organization to consider risk factors and develop the necessary plans to ensure their company's continued viability via business continuity planning. Business continuity strategies and crisis mitigation plans should be in place before a threat or crisis is declared. However, it is never too late to develop a plan and be prepared for what lies ahead. In this presentation, I'd like to walk you through 4 key areas that can help you identify and quantify your risk, understand its impact and develop strategies to mitigate them, communicate effectively, and lead your organization through a crisis. Business impact analysis helps companies identify, quantify, and qualify the impacts to their business due to the interruption or disruption of critical business processes, functions, or activities, and provides data from which an appropriate business continuity strategy can be established. Please note that understanding your business well is a precursor to starting this exercise. The first step is to identify your business critical processes and activities across the value chain, internal and external, such as your sales, manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, um, accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, IT, engineering, R&D, and such. You want to outline and understand interdependencies that can exist both internally and externally between processes, services, data, and such across the organization and your value chain. I usually ask teams to identify critical resources required for the resumption and recovery, such as personnel, technology, hardware and software, critical business records, and such. This is so that I can understand if I have the critical backups and policies already in place or if I need to create them in order to minimize the impact where possible. The next step is to quantify the impact. Impact on people, both physical and psychological impact that can be caused with the threat of failure of a critical process, function, or activity. People here include your employees, customers, suppliers, neighborhood, stakeholders, your visitors on site based on the threat, and such. Next, you want to identify the operational impact that this loss of function or activity could cause to your business, such as loss of sales, contractual penalties, your negative cash flows, your customer dissatisfaction and defection, your increased cost of goods sold due to overtime or expediting costs, a delay of a new product launch, and such. So once you have your operational impacts identified, you want to quantify them in financial terms. Finally, you want to understand the impact to your company's reputation and image as well. In this day of social media and digital communication platforms, it will be crucial to understand what impact your company could face if there is a failure. The next key step is to determine your maximum tolerable or acceptable outage. So what does this mean? It is the length of time a process or activity can be non-functional before the impact to your business becomes unacceptable and sometimes irreversible. For some companies, seasonal cycles such as financial year-end, tax filings, contractual commitments, and such may affect your maximum allowable outage. So make sure you understand and plan for it. Your recovery time objective, or RTO, determines how soon and to which point in time the process and information could be restored to in order to ensure the business objectives can still be met. Now, if your recovery time objective is greater than your maximum tolerable outage, you want to reconsider your mitigation strategies. Identify and document alternate procedures to a process such as manual workarounds, your notification processes, your alternate work sites, so that you can reduce your overall recovery time. Again, if the established RTO is greater than your MTO, please consider alternate strategies as well as quantify the impact to your organization. Now, based on all of this, define and establish impact levels for each critical function or process. Impact levels can be such as level 1 being a routine emergency, level 2 considered a minor impact to your business, while levels 4 and 5 can be major impacts to your business with significant financial loss and impact to achieving your corporate objectives. There are different business impact analysis templates and softwares that can be utilized for this exercise. I like to use a template that has the recovery time objective included as well as the resources needed to meet the RTO all in one worksheet, since it lets me understand the critical resources and the acceptable process deviations such as relocation and recovery sites, data backups, manual processes, and such to address the threat and ensure that I have an acceptable and robust RTO. And having all this data in one place works for me as we go forward developing a business continuity strategy. So I would recommend utilizing a template that can have as much relevant data captured in one document. The business impact analysis is used to understand the financial and social impact to your organization due to a threat or disruption of one or more of your business critical function, process, or activity. A risk assessment is concerned with the possible causes of disruption, focusing on failure modes, and helps prioritize threats in order to build strategies to mitigate them. The risk assessment takes those identified critical functions, processes, and activities from the business impact analysis and seeks to qualify both the impact and the likelihood of the potential failure based on existing controls. With an internal agreed upon formula, it helps you prioritize threats and determine strategies to mitigate impact of those identified risks. This exercise can also help identify single point of failures across multiple critical functions or processes. Now, similar to the business impact analysis, there are a few risk scoring models and risk assessment templates that can be utilized to understand and prioritize risk reduction activities. For higher risk, the best approach to reduce or minimize it may include addressing the risk with contingencies in place to reduce the impact or likelihood, or ensuring efficient recovery, or you may decide to tolerate the risk with a decision to accept the risk because the cost of risk reduction strategies outweigh the benefits, or you may decide to transfer the risk via contractual arrangements or insurance policies. Now that we have our business impact analysis done, we understand our risks and its impact and likelihood are identified and prioritized, and the methods to mitigate them to ensure our recovery time objective will meet the maximum tolerable outage criteria, we can move on to developing our business continuity strategy. There are a few strategies out there that can be utilized to mitigate the impact of a disruption or reduce the probability of a threat event. I would ask you to consider these three levels of strategy and planning. Departmental or organizational strategy, which ensures continuance of that organization. This may include remote work sites, contracted alternate manufacturing sites, exclusion zones, and such. Mission critical strategy to provide a framework for the resumption for one or more of business critical processes and activities, and a resource recovery strategy to provide and coordinate a predetermined level of resources to enable the implementation of the mission critical activities. Do note that a strategy that cannot meet the maximum tolerable outage is certain to fail if implemented. Given that we live in the age of information overflow and a pandemic outbreak, communication both internally and externally will be crucial for any leader. Communication is a key part of crisis management. As with any crisis, and especially with this one, public safety should be the number one priority. However, a crisis can create financial loss to the organization by disrupting its internal operations, supply disruptions, as well as loss of market share. And if the crisis is not handled well, it can reflect poorly on the company, leading to reputation loss as well. Therefore, it will be crucial for the organization to assess its risk and respond in a timely and organized manner. Crisis management is usually divided into three phases: a pre-crisis, crisis response, and post-crisis. And the execution of all this requires clear and succinct communication to execute the crisis management plan. The pre-crisis phase is preparing the organization to address its risks associated with the crisis by developing a crisis management plan and putting in place the crisis management and crisis response teams. Having the contact information for the crisis response team members and their backups, in addition to all key contacts of your employees, customers, suppliers, and stakeholders up to date and in a centralized location, is key. You also need to have all the emergency contact information, including those of your local police and hospitals, up to date. You will want to develop a crisis communication plan. Identify the spokesperson for the internal and external communications for initial response to ensure message consistency and to avoid confusions and rumors. You also want to take this time to determine the methods of crisis communication, internet, social media, mass notification systems, and such, and test them out. Establish and communicate alert levels within the organization. Having a uniform interpretation and definition of the crisis via these alert levels will provide a clear and non-interpretive status of the situation. For example, when you communicate alert level 3, your crisis response team will know exactly what to expect and will manage their priorities as such. It is important to note here that the event itself does not determine an alert level here, but rather it is the impact or threat of impact to your organization that event has that establishes this alert level. You also want to pre-draft messages and determine if you can roll out a centralized message across the organization or if you will need additional decentralized communication based on the location of your sites across multiple counties, states, and countries. Pre-crisis is your planning phase. It is hard to plan while you are in the midst of a crisis, so best to be prepared. The second phase is the crisis response phase. Even if the event has not yet occurred, a crisis can exist, and the mere threat of an event can require a company to take extraordinary actions in advance. Every potential crisis situation must be assessed in terms of its impact or threat. The initial crisis response guidelines focuses on 3 points: be quick, be accurate, be consistent. The first response must be the safety of all employees and visitors on site, and then to contact emergency personnel as needed. You want to ensure your communications team is informed immediately of the situation, especially if there is an employee at risk or if there is a probability that the company's image could be negatively impacted by the situation. You want to maintain a complete and accurate record of all facts, information sources, and related actions taken. So you can start recording the event and initiate an event log or an event tracking log. These provide a timeline of events and actions taken during a crisis. It also provides as a quick reference for audits and helps in lessons learned to improve a process going forward. With the coronavirus, you need to understand the OSHA requirements with regards to reporting if applicable to your business. Identify and document all functions that are disrupted and assets damaged due to the event. Call for the crisis management team debriefs and initiate the business continuity plans that we addressed earlier. This includes sending out pre-drafted messages to your employees, customers, suppliers, and stakeholders. I like to have a checklist, especially for this phase. When you are in the midst of a crisis, sometimes we need help to ensure that we have addressed and documented all key actions. So having a cheat sheet does not hurt. Post-crisis is when the organization is returning to business as usual, and though the crisis is not the focal point, it still requires attention. Based on the crisis, reputation repair may need to be addressed here as well. It will be important to follow up on all communications and promised deliverables with stakeholders, customers, suppliers, insurance companies, and such. You may be required to release recovery updates, corrective actions, or investigations of the crisis. Crisis management is also about lessons learned. What did we do well? What could we have done better? And what else should be done if we face a similar crisis again? Find ways to improve prevention, management, and response. Unfortunately, not all companies are good at learning from a crisis, so please don't be one of them. Be honest about the self-assessment so you are prepared if another crisis should arise. Crises are defining moments for an organization and its leaders. Unfortunately, no organization is immune to crisis. However, it takes a strong leader with leadership courage to be effective during these uncertain times. I'd like to share these 9 crisis leadership attributes from the CDC to help you lead your organization through a crisis. I want to start with connectivity. It means to interact effectively with all levels of the organization, both internally and across different organizations, to engage in cross-functional activities, share information, and facilitate collaboration to successfully accomplish mission objectives. You need to have courage and perseverance to display strength and confidence when faced with uncertainty. Don't be afraid to take appropriate risk and accept responsibility for the outcome. Being credible is how you will earn the confidence and respect of leaders, peers, subordinates, and folks around you. Be decisive. Making critical and timely decisions when faced with ambiguous information is crucial. Perceive and anticipate the impacts and implications of decisions. Emotional effectiveness. Having EQ and empathy is important, especially during a time of crisis. Recognize the impact a crisis has on yourself and others and promote positive interactions. This is key as you consider and respond to the needs of your team members, stakeholders, and individuals impacted by the crisis. I do see a lot of companies and government organizations where the leaders and managers are able to work from home or have privileges that are not offered to critical and essential on-site employees who may be putting their lives and the lives of their family at risk for the organization to achieve its corporate objectives. Make sure these employees are heard, appreciated, and supported. They are considered critical and essential for a reason, so please don't treat them as fodder. This can also come back to impact your company's reputation in the long run. Identify what is critically important during an emergency and use that information to strategically lead, balance priorities, and anticipate consequences. Proactively assess and address both the day-to-day and long-term problems and opportunities. Situational awareness is having the ability to identify, process, and comprehend the critical elements of an emergency. You want to stay abreast of the mission statement, continually assess and reassess the situation to compile a plausible picture of the situation with known facts and potential outcomes. team leadership. You cannot do this on your own. Lead, inspire, motivate, and guide your team members in a safe and effective manner. Acknowledge and address the impact of stress on your team during a crisis, and make yourself available and visible to the team when responding to the event. Communication, this is key. Make sure you communicate during times of crisis in a timely, clear, accurate, and truthful manner. You want to initiate communication both vertically and horizontally to keep your leadership, peers, and subordinates informed. To reiterate, no organization is immune to crisis. However, how well your company does during and after a crisis depends on you, your leadership ability. To quote Brian Tracy, the true test of leadership is how well you function in a crisis. In conclusion, having a crisis management and business continuity plan is crucial no matter the size of the organization or the industry you're in. By understanding your business objectives, assessing risk and its impact to your organization, developing the appropriate strategies to mitigate and manage crisis, as well as creating a culture of continuous improvement and learning will ensure that you can lead your organization through any crisis, even if it is the uncharted one that we currently face. I hope you found the information shared with you today to be useful. If I can be of any help to you and your organization, please do not hesitate to contact me directly via the email provided here. Or if you have my business card and the Unified AR app, you can use that to contact me as well. I'm looking forward to continuing to share my learnings and experiences with you via this format. Thank you for your time. Be safe and be the leader you are called to be.